Welcome to On the Origin of Legendary Species, a series dedicated to the study of creatures born from myth, folklore, fantasy, and imagination. Each episode, we examine a single legendary being, its origins, its traits, its enemies, and the cultural forces that shaped its legend. From ancient gods and dragons to cryptids, monsters, and icons of modern fiction, this is a natural history of the unreal. The Lich, deathless tyrants of arcane will. There are monsters that hunger. There are monsters that rage. And then there are monsters that choose eternity. The Lich is not born of curse, infection, or accident. It is not a victim of transformation. It is the endpoint of ambition. A wizard who looks at mortality and decides it is an inconvenience. A scholar who gazes into the abyss and concludes that death is merely a problem to be solved. In the worlds of Dungeons and Dragons, the Lich is the ultimate expression of arcane obsession, a spellcaster who has willingly severed themselves from life in pursuit of power, knowledge, and immortality. It is undeath not as punishment, but as achievement. And that distinction makes all the difference. A Lich begins as a mortal of extraordinary magical talent. Typically a wizard, though occasionally a sorcerer, cleric, or warlock. They are defined not merely by skill, but by relentless hunger. Knowledge is never enough. Power is never sufficient. Time is always the enemy. To become a Lich, one must perform rituals so vile, so profane, that its exact details are often left intentionally obscure even within the lore. What is known as this, the ritual requires the crafting of a phylactery, a vessel designed to house the Lich's soul. This object, often an amulet, ring, crown, or ornate box, becomes the anchor of their existence. The Lich then consumes a potion of transformation, a brew of lethal toxins, and necromantic reagents. The body dies, but the soul does not pass on. Instead, it is drawn into the phylactery, bound there through dark magic. The corpse rises again, animated by arcane will. Flesh withers, eyes sink into hollow sockets, skin tightens over bone. The heart does not beat, yet the mind remains cold, focused, eternal. Unlike mindless undead, the Lich retains its full intelligence, personality, and magical prowess. It is not diminished by death. It is refined by it. Freed from the distractions of hunger, sleep, aging, and physical frailty, the Lich becomes something terrifyingly efficient. But immortality comes at a price. The phylactery must be fed. Souls must be consumed to sustain the magic that binds the Lich's existence. Without this ritual nourishment, the Lich begins to decay into madness and demolition, a withered remnant of its former self, often reduced to a floating skull adorned with gems. Thus the Lich becomes a predator of souls. Its lair reflects its nature, vast libraries of forbidden tomes, arcane laboratories humming with necromantic energy, crypts filled with undead servants. Liches rarely act impulsively. They plan in decades. In centuries, they manipulate kingdoms like chess pieces, orchestrate wars to harvest souls, and conceal their phylacteries in impossibly secure locations. Hidden emblems, the depths of oceans, trapped vaults layered with lethal woods. To destroy a Lich's body is merely an inconvenience. As long as the phylactery remains intact, the Lich will reform within days, its skeletal frame knitting back together round a core of hatred and purpose. True death only comes when the phylactery is shattered. And that is no simple task. Throughout Dungeons and Dragons lore, several Liches have risen to near-mythic status. Perhaps the most infamous is Vecna. Vecna began as a mortal wizard of immense ambition in the world of Greyhawk. Betrayed and dismembered by his lieutenant Cus, whose sentient sword turned against him, Vecna's body was destroyed, but not before he achieved lichdom. His severed hand and eye became legendary artifacts of immense power, corrupting all who used them. Yet even that was not the end. Vecna transcended lichdom itself, ascending to godhood. He became a deity of secrets, undeath, and forbidden knowledge, proof that for some liches, even immortality is merely a stepping stone. Then there is Acererak. Acererak is the architect of the infamous Tomb of Horrors, a dungeon designed not merely to challenge adventurers, but to annihilate them. And like many liches who seek dominion over lands or armies, Acererak delights in cruelty, experimentation, and the harvesting of souls. He has created soul-devouring constructs and even attempted to birth a godlike entity through mass sacrifice. Acererak represents the sadistic side of lichdom, intellect without empathy, curiosity without restraint. In the Forgotten Realms, Shostam stands as another towering figure. A red wizard of Fae, Shostam became a lich and maneuvered himself into political supremacy. Unlike the isolated lich in a lonely tower, Shostam commands armies, governs a nation of necromancers, and seeks apocalyptic transformations of reality itself. He blends political cunning with arcane supremacy, demonstrating that liches need not lurk in shadows, they can rule openly. And then there are the Belnorn. Not all liches are evil. In elven lore within the Forgotten Realms, Belnorn are elven liches who undergo transformation willingly to serve and protect their people. And like traditional liches, they do not consume souls for sustenance. Their immortality is sustained through different magic, often tied to sacred duty. The Belnorn remind us that lichdom, while horrific in most contexts, is not inherently malevolent. It is intention that defines monstrosity. This moral ambiguity deepens the archetype. At its core, the Lich is a meditation on fear of death. It embodies the question, what would you sacrifice to live forever? Humanity has long sought immortality. Alchemists chased the philosopher's stone. Emperors consumed elixirs of mercury. Myths tell of fountains of youth and divine ascensions. The Lich is the dark fantasy version of that same desire, immortality achieved not through purity or enlightenment, but through domination of death itself. Yet liches are often depicted as isolated, paranoid, hollow. Eternity strips away connection. Friends age and die. Civilizations crumble. Language evolves. The Lich remains unchanged, a relic of a forgotten era. Over centuries, even purpose can erode. What begins as a quest for knowledge may decay into obsession. What begins as an ambition may curdle into tyranny. Visually, the Lich has become iconic in fantasy art, skeletal figure draped in rotting robes, jeweled phylactery glowing faintly at its chest, staff crackling with green necromantic energy. Its eye sockets burn with cold light. And like zombies, it stands upright, regal even in decay. A corpse that commands. Mechanically in Dungeons and Dragons, liches are among the most formidable spellcasting foes. Masters of high-level magic, immune to many conditions, surrounded by layers of magical defenses, they are often final adversaries, the culmination of a campaign's narrative arc. Facing a Lich is not merely combat. It is confrontation with accumulated centuries of preparation. But beyond mechanics and lore, the Lich endures because it reflects something deeply human. It is the scholar who cannot accept limits, the tyrant who refuses to relinquish control, the genius who values achievement over morality. It is the ultimate expression of intellect divorced from empathy. And yet, there is tragedy there too. To become a Lich, one must willingly abandon warmth, sensation, heartbeat. No taste, no breath, no sunlight felt upon skin. Only thought remains. Endless thought, an eternity to consider whether it was worth it. Some liches cling to their ambitions and never waver. Others descend into madness. A few, rarely, regret. But regret does not reverse undeath. In many campaigns and stories, the destruction of a lich is not merely victory over evil. It is the restoration of natural order, the breaking of a cycle that should never have begun. When a phylactery shatters and the lich's soul is finally released, whether to judgment, oblivion, or something worse, it marks the end of defiance against mortality. Because in the cosmology of Dungeons and Dragons, death is part of the Great Wheel. Souls pass to planes aligned with belief and action. The Lich rejects that cosmic journey. It refuses its place in the multiverse. It says no, and in that refusal lies its horror. The Lich is not driven by hunger like a ghoul, nor rage like a vampire spawn. It is driven by calculation. It has already faced death and conquered it. It does not fear you. It does not rush. It does not waste motion. It waits in its tower, or its tomb, or its hidden demibulin, confident that time is on its side. Because time always is. Unless someone finds the phylactery, unless someone is willing to descend into the darkest vaults, decipher ancient wards, survive traps designed by a mind centuries old, and strike at the one object that truly matters. The Lich's body can be broken. Its spells can be countered. But its soul, hidden, guarded, anchored in secret, is the true battlefield. And that is what makes the Lich enduringly terrifying. It is not merely a monster. It is a choice. A declaration that knowledge is worth damnation. That power outweighs humanity. That eternity, no matter how cold, is preferable to the unknown beyond death. And somewhere, in a silent chamber lit by the green glow of arcane fire, a skeletal figure turns the page of an ancient tome. It has all the time in the world. You've been listening to On the Origin of Legendary Species. If you enjoy this episode, consider subscribing and exploring our collections, from dragons and cryptids to gods, demons and creatures of science fiction. New episodes are released weekly, each examining a single legendary species in depth. Until next time, remember, legends do not disappear, they evolve.